All right. Plot device. Episode, I don't know. I haven't been keeping track of
maybe
these.
4?
Maybe 4 or 5, I think.
4 or 5,
It doesn't really matter. So, Andres.
Yeah.
You have... Oh, this is going to sound great. Oh, yeah. That's what I want.
Fantastic.
Oh, great. Yeah, let's get that right in there. Oh, yeah. Oh, what a good start. So, Andres.
Yeah.
You have all the topics today.
Yeah.
I want you to go ahead, just throw them out there.
All right.
So let's do a hot take.
We got these general things that we got to think about sometimes when we got these elements that we introduce. Like fighting, like fighting, sometimes the end's all, sometimes it's, the means,
In JoJo's case, it's everything.
Yeah, sure. But, it's like, people are saying that a fight should do more than action. But, you can actually flesh somebody out this way. And that, a fight, can be more than a mere slugfest. It can tell you more about somebody when you see them fight.
Plot through fighting, pretty much.
Plot through fighting, yes.
Well, do you count stuff like when there are fights happening and flashbacks are happening during the fight, or like dialogue, like the characters are talking to each other as they're fighting?
No, I mean like the physical action of actually like hitting something. Because it's like, in some cases, think about like Jackie Chan. All right, now he's going to be a little bit of a weird example, but whenever he fights, it's like this whole choreography, plus he can get hurt whenever he's trying to hurt somebody. It's not so malicious, And it kind of establishes that, he's kind of, even though he's a strong and tough guy, he's also kind of, I don't want to say warm because that's a weird kind of way of putting it. But
it's also a really weird example.
No, but it's like you can tell a little bit more about somebody by fighting,
how
those
they
outliers.
Fight. How they fight.
Sure,
and how they do stuff.
Yeah, like let's say we got somebody, we want to say he's malicious, he'll kick the dog. Have him literally kick the dog when somebody's down, going ahead and give him that one extra.
Okay. I think I see where you're coming from, but is there any like prime example other than like the really weird one of Jackie Chan? Like, I can't really think of anything like that happening in a lot of manga or anime.
I mean, like, also a little bit more too, like establish like the element, because it's like in some of the fighting movies, it's going to be really choreographed, like it's going to look neat, it's going to have a flow to it. And then in some, it's going to be a little bit gritty, it's like when somebody does a fight, they'll make a mistake and, it's just sloppy. And then, like, in some where it's supposed to be extremely tense, it's like everyone's just got to, like, grip for what they got.
Well, the weird thing about the examples you're giving is that it sounds like you're using a lot of movies as your example.
I mean, there's that, definitely.
Well, but and the thing my issue with using movies as an example for stuff like that is that they're directed. They're meant to be like that. They're meant to look like that.
Yeah.
It's not like it is on purpose for just about every reason. So I can't really say that there's a whole lot of story or character implication behind movie fights because it's meant to look like that.
I mean, I understand that too, but I feel like in any element too, you can really convey whether something is done, whether it's done gritty or whether it's done with like this smooth transition. You can kind of just know about what to expect, basically. I guess. What I'm trying to say.
But in terms of like character stuff, the only examples you can really come up with like for shit like anime and manga is just like, well, they're going to show a flashback or the characters are going to be yelling at each other the whole time. I don't think there's too many examples of stuff where it's like, okay, maybe they're fighting sloppy, but like that's because they're thugs kind of thing, or like there's not too many like martial art.
We got Rurouni Kenshin. Fights with the back of his sword.
That's true. But he says that at the very beginning without even getting into a fight. Like the girl like beats his ass and he's just like, she's like, why is your sword all stupid? And he's like, because I don't want to kill people.
All right, so maybe we can answer this question a little bit better if we have like another question. It's like, when did these fights just become meaningless? Like you just see two people get together and they just have to fight. And
when did they become meaningless?
Like when did they become meaningless? Because it's like with a fight, you can be like, well, we have this person and they're invested, but their investment doesn't matter enough to actually have them fight because it just doesn't make sense for them to go on ahead and pick up arms, unless of course they're that ridiculous of a bastard to do it.
I don't know. I can't think of anything. Has there ever been a moment when they? That's a good question. I can't think of anything. Like.
Like I'm sure there's like a moment that you've probably seen like immediately. Maybe nothing's like coming to mind like right now, but there's definitely been moments where you just see something. It's like this has just been gratuitously violent,
For no reason?
For no reason.
But the problem could be solved?
But the problem could be solved.
Okay, then there is an example I can think of, and it's in Bleach.
Okay.
So in Bleach, near the end of like the main arc with Aizen, the whole gimmick is Ichigo shows up and he's the problem solver. Like, he's stronger than everybody else, and they're all just like, oh, Ichigo, you can beat Aizen. You're the only one who can do it, kind of thing. And he shows up, and all the captains are like, hey, Ichigo, listen, we know you're the problem solver, but this is also our problem, so we want to take care of it. Just hold off for a minute. And it's like, all right, that's kind of dumb, but it is all of the captains. Collectively, they have to be stronger than the one bad guy. And then the one bad guy's sword ability is OP and makes everyone like basically hypnotized without knowing it. So at one point, when they're all attacking Aizen, or they think they are, like all the captains basically stab through him, and then the hypnotism, or Ichigo's just like, dude, what the fuck are you guys doing? And then the hypnotism wears off, and they're all stabbing the one girl that likes Toshiro. The black hair girl, her.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, her. They're all stabbing her, and it's just like, Ichigo, you watched them do this on the first stab. Please just say something earlier or solve the problem. Like, don't wear this out. This is a bad thing that's happening right now.
This is like a few steps away from what Old Man Logan could have been.
Oh fuck.
I mean, I don't know, like if the movie if it happened in the movie, but it happened in the comics, some similar thing.
Well, that's the big thing I can think of, because that happens in Bleach. It probably happens in a lot of other stuff too. Any of the big three that happened in other than Bleach?
I mean, like I would just say, like outright, that it happens in just about any time you want to throw a Mugen. It's like, hey, dude, want to fight? Except eventually, it's like you will have these people just reoccur for no reason. It's like, dude, we don't need to see another scene of this guy fight another guy just because they're fighting. We don't need to see that, like. If we gotta wait to see the guys fight, then go on ahead and set up the circumstances to make them fight.
If you gotta build it up,
you gotta build your fights up. If you just keep having scene after scene.
At the same time, there's a lot of action stuff that does that, and it's because they're just the villain. Like sometimes there doesn't need to be that in depth of a reason. It's you're an asshole kind of thing, and they did a fight. Not every fight is gonna have I'm trying to think. Well, a majority, that was actually kind of a bad example, because every time the main character fights a villain, it's been built up over the entire series.
Yeah, I can see that.
I guess it's like more of the in-between fights. I think there's just not too many examples of that I can think of.
I guess the question's a little bit ambiguous.
It kind of is. Well, but that's what else you got on there?
All right.
Because it was a good question,
right.
But we're not good at answering.
We're not good at answering.
We don't know what we're talking about.
Let's find a way one day.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then we also got, not only does these emotions that people have that they bring into these fights, like tell you more about them, through that stuff that they have.
Yeah.
But, sometimes characters are a little bit more emotionally removed from how they should be in regards to just switching out for the bigger picture. They're more of a bigger picture kind of guy.
What do you mean?
Like stoic, I guess. Like removed in one way, but then in another way they can become a little bit more involved. And that, while this does work, against how likable these characters are, sometimes it can add some really good depth to it.
Okay. So like when the character just stone faces the whole time, but like secretly they really care?
Sometimes it's like a little bit of a secret care, and then sometimes it's more of a, hey, this thing hurt me, but because it hurt me doesn't mean it doesn't matter. It matters actually in a better way.
Like Jotaro?
Sure.
Well, because he didn't care about any of the stuff that was happening until his mom got affected by it.
I'm thinking more towards it's like, hey, something happened to me, but, it's just like my bad, like...
Oh, it's their own fault?
It's not like so much of their own fault. It can be their own fault. But let's suppose that they come across a scenario, and the scenario is the worst case scenario for this one guy. But he realizes, hey, bigger picture wise, maybe I got a goal. This is actually a really good thing. So, I'm not going to be like upset about it.
There's kind of an example of that, and it's kind of from a really weird place.
All right.
It's from the World of Warcraft movie.
All right, go ahead and shoot it.
Okay, so I went and saw that movie, and it was... it wasn't bad. I don't know anything about World of Warcraft, so I take that as it is. But near the end, spoilers, near the end of the movie, or like pretty much at the end of the movie, the king of the humans is pretty much left in the orc camp, and it's just like, oh man, once whoever kills me is gonna have like the higher pecking order, is gonna be at the top of it, and so the half orc lady that's with the humans, like helping them out, the king looks to her and is like, all right, listen. That huge dude coming at me right now is totally gonna wreck my shit. If he kills me, the problem is never gonna get solved, and it's always gonna be bad no matter what. Because he just wants to have war as well. But if you kill me, you're an orc. You have some kind of pull here. So if you kill me, you'll be able to pull some kind of strings and like solve some problems. You know?
Yeah, that's what I'm going for.
And she was like, but I don't want to. And he's like, it doesn't matter what you want. This is the best solution in the worst case scenario. And then that happens, and then that's pretty much the end of the movie. It was really good. I wasn't expecting that to come from that movie. I was expecting just like, yeah, we solved the problem because we did it, magic, shit like that.
Yeah.
It was actually a pretty interesting solution that that very Berserk-esque of even the best solution is the worst thing that can happen. And I appreciate that. I love that about some stories.
Yeah, you gotta say he's a really reliable guy, I guess, from hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely reliable. Even if it's like two
what
steps
a king.
forward, even if it is 2 steps forward, 1 step back, you're still going forward. And overall, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he was a good king. Good guy. I respect that guy. Then he got fucking wrecked. But I really like that. And I think that's a good example of what you're talking about. I don't think there's too many examples of that, though. Because he was calm under pressure, but there aren't many characters that are stoic the whole time, but also deeply emotional.
Yeah.
That have problems that not they have caused, but they have to solve on their own.
Maybe a little bit has to go with believability too, because then when you have somebody who's just far too emotional, I mean, we want somebody to be emotional. We expect that they have something in it. They have some kind of.
They don't have to be fully emotional. But there needs to be scenes that show that they have emotions.
Right.
Like Rey from Evangelion. She is basically emotionless the whole time. She clearly doesn't care. But outside of it, when you see her outside of work, basically, yeah, she gets pretty heavy about a lot of stuff and really cares about a lot of stuff that goes on.
Yeah, so I guess the best way to say to be stoic isn't to be removed completely. It's that when that moment comes, you're going to be calm and you're going to be whoever you are. You're a leader, you're a fighter, you're going to get through this. And
you're a soldier.
He pulled through.
That king pulled through. Do you have any examples of that? Because besides that, I can't think of any. There aren't many.
One particular one that I noticed, it was a really small example, but it definitely leaves an impression. It's there's this one manga called Shamo, basically translates to fighting cock. This guy, he's a real bastard. He apparently,
this is the thing you should tell. Okay.
I told you about this before. This dude, he basically fights to survive. So it's whenever he thinks about fighting, fighting is the bigger picture. There is no bigger picture beyond that survival. Mm-hmm. So one day, he's kind of encounters this dog. Dog starts biting his finger, blood's gushing everywhere, and he's like, "Wow, you're a strong little guy, aren't you?"
You're tough.
And it's he brings that respect to it. Even though he's somebody who would probably not, he wouldn't let that go,
No, he's holding that grudge.
No, he would hold a grudge.
He's gonna find that dog's family. He's gonna fuck up that dog's family.
Yeah, but he didn't take it personally because it's survival to him wasn't something about being personal. Surviving is that itself, surviving.
Okay.
So it's it really kind of adds to who he is as a person.
Yeah. Okay, I can respect that. That's also. I remember trying to read that, and it seems so out of order.
It really does.
No, the first chapter I read wasn't. It was he had already been the main character had already been through a couple of fights, and he was like, oh, why am I reacting so slowly? And he goes to the doctor and he's like, oh man, my fucking eyes are losing it, and I'm not able to fight as well. And it's what are you talking about? This is the first chapter. What's happening? Okay, there's I don't like that it seems so disjointed from the first chapter.
Definitely is. All right,
Okay.
so it seems like they're going somewhere else.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, they better. We're recording here. Yeah, there they go. I heard the door on the other side. So, basically, and I didn't like that, so I kind of dropped it really fast. And it's like...
No, I get that. Like, the beginning's very weird. And then
it wasn't even that it was weird. It was that I wasn't... And I went through the whole first chapter to make sure. I didn't get any information about, like, where he started, like, which is what I want. I want the whole story. I don't like this middle of the scene shit.
The story's going to disappoint you, though, because there's a lot of in the middle.
You told me about, like, how disjointed, and you were telling me there were, like, 2 writers on it or something. They couldn't agree on what to do.
Yeah, and then they had to, like, start over again. Yeah, had a new number 1.
No, fuck that. I'm done with that shit. No, I'm not doing that.
That's fine. It's got a movie. I don't know how accurate it is, but I'll watch it one day. And if it's clear and in order.
Did you read Ichi the Killer?
I did not.
Okay, you should read it. It's really short, and it is finished.
Okay.
It's really weird, but at the same time, there's also a movie.
Mm.
And after reading the entirety of it, I'm surprised there is a movie based on that. Because, shit that happens in that, I don't want to see that in a movie. That's really weird. I don't like that.
Yeah, there's definitely things that don't show up in movies and probably shouldn't show up in movies.
It's just like the amount of, like, ultra violence in Ichi the Killer. Like, the whole deal with the main character is, like, he's fucking super strong karate dude who kills people. But he also has, like, his own emotional problems and stuff.
Yeah,
but he's still really strong. Like, they showed off, like, he's super good at kicking, which is his whole deal. He, like, axe kicks a sandbag, and he does it so quick with his heel that it catches fire. It's like, wow, you are...
Is that regular in the series, or is it like just something special he can do?
What, that?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Well, he's the only character.
Okay.
Because in the whole series, he's the only character that actually, like, fights, like, properly. Every other character is, like, either, like, a Yakuza, so they're just, like, they're super beefy, but they're not actually that tough kind of thing. Like, they'll hit you when you go down, but, like, they're not going to be like, oh. It's not that. And the main villain's deal is really awkward and not great. It's really weird.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
We got some pretty weak villains.
There's some really cringy shit near the end too.
I'll keep that in mind when I get around to it.
When I say cringy, I don't mean like somebody said something. I mean like what happens to the villain. Because he gets it, and he gets it kind of rough. I would say it's a more realistic version of a JoJo villain being killed. Because you know how it's always like some super ridiculous situation, cars gets blasted off into space?
Yeah.
This is like, I don't think this will ever happen, but it could happen. It's like super pathetic, and I don't like that.
You know, at first I thought I knew where the series was going.
Oh, no, you have no idea.
It just didn't.
No, you have no idea. There's no way to explain this.
I'm not going to try guessing anymore on that.
Yeah, please read it.
All right. So we got our next topic.
Now, before you go to your topic, I have a thing of my own because, and this is, how many topics do you have on here?
I got like 4 more.
4 more?
Yeah, like 4 more, and they're like general kind of topics. So
okay, well this one's really specific, and it's about so over the weekend,
all right,
I went and played Tekken 7 with a friend in South Carolina. Just stay at his apartment. We played Tekken 7 because he bought it.
That's cool.
So Tekken 7 has a character named Eliza. Super waifu.
Okay.
Now you're looking her up.
I'm looking her up right now.
She's super waifu bait. It's really hard. So the thing is, I mean, to be honest, Tekken 7, all the female characters in that are basically waifu bait, but it's totally worth it. So the deal is, I don't know if this is every female character, but Eliza has 2 costumes in that game. She has her regular costume as like an alt version. Have you found her?
Yeah, I found her.
Let me see.
Right now. This?
Yeah, that's her basically.
All right.
And she has that costume, like an alt version of her original, and she has the bikini costume because it's a female character in a game where you can play dress up with everybody. Like, I'm gonna expect that. The issue that I have with those costumes, the bikini one obviously serves as fan service, but they both increase her bust size, and that's about it. And that's kind of weird And I don't like that. Do you see where I'm coming from, kind of?
Yeah, sure.
The issue is, it's like, I wanna stare at this all day, but that's super creepy. It's creepy as fuck, but I like it. And it's the weird thing of like, are there any characters like that and anything else that happens with? I mean, I know there's Dead or Alive.
Yeah.
And Dead or Alive, his whole deal is fan service, which is fine, but I don't want my fighting games to be known or to be well known or sold or sell well because of fan service. And the fact that this is in Tekken 7, yeah, it's a really specific thing because you have to go into the customized screen and buy the costumes, and like, it's a small amount of work, but you still got to put in the work to even get the stuff.
Is this like her only redeeming quality though?
Redeeming quality?
Like,
what do you mean?
Like if you need something to like bring somebody into the game, it's going to be like...
Okay, I am never going to introduce people to a fighting game because of like a waifu. I'm going to like play the game in front of them with a majority, like a good selection of the cast, and be like, here, get your hands on this. Do you like this? And if the selling point to them is like a female character, don't buy it. It's not worth it. You gotta want to play the damn thing. If you want to stare at a character model the whole time, just go buy a fucking model. It'll last you a lot longer, and you'll actually see the damn thing every day.
We looking at mechanics versus cosmetics then?
Kinda, yeah. Well, not even cosmetics, because I think a good selling point of Tekken 7 is the overall appearance. Because that game's fucking gorgeous. Its presentation's stylish as fuck. It's super good. It's a lot better than Street Fighter V in terms of appearance, and actually looks good.
But the boobs bothers you.
No, it's not that the boobs bother me. It's that's a choice. And that's a thing that I can do. The character's already fine. They're already waifu. Like, the way they're designed is clearly made for that. I shouldn't have to go this far. And plus, I mean, that game's already dress up. Like, you can put costumes on every character in that game.
All right. Because I feel like that you got like your finger on your problem, but it's like you just can't like pin it down. Like what your problem is with it. So I'm gonna go on ahead and say that like these characters, they're gonna be like the peak of whatever. They're gonna be unique in their own way.
They are.
But we expect them to be like the peak of the human condition. And at some point,
I expect them to be better than what I want from my expectations. I expect them to be more than, oh, I get to make a big-titted girl in my fighting game, and I get to stare at that all day as I play.
All right.
It's kind of distracting as well.
So, like, it's not so much as this function is here, then you'd rather have, like, another function.
It shouldn't be there. I don't want that, but I like it. See, the critic in me doesn't want it there at all. Like, it shouldn't be there, and I shouldn't have to see that. But the fucking weirdo creep anime weirdo in me is like, yeah, but look at the boobs. They're super. They're bigger now. It's like, shut up, me. God damn it. Let me play Akuma, who I'm gonna be playing as a lot because Akuma's really fun in that game. And that game's great though. You should. I'll try to show it to you sometime.
Right.
That and Yakuza 0. Oh man, Yakuza 0 is the best.
I have not played Yakuza 0 either.
Oh, dude.
You showed me a clip though, yeah?
Probably.
Was that the other day?
Yeah, where he's dancing?
Yeah, where he's dancing.
Yeah, I showed you.
Yeah.
That game's great. There's a style or a fighting stance in that game called breaker, which is breakdancing. It's a breakdance fight. It's really fun. And there's a heat move that you do, which is basically if you're in between two opponents and one is attacking you, you hit triangle and you do a special move where you'll dodge the one guy, elbow him in the back of the head, and the other guy who's attacking you will swing and hit him. And then you just bring your leg up and swing it back down and kick one guy's leg into the other guy's nuts.
That is a fantastic.
And then no, it's not done. And then you spin back and you hit the other guy in the back of the neck with your elbow. It's fucking amazing.
Trying to follow that, and it's.
Hold on, I'm gonna show you.
Okay.
Okay, after about like 20 minutes of trying to find it, I finally found it.
Yeah. After seeing it, it makes a lot more sense.
It's really hard to describe, but it's really cool.
A little bit hard to describe, but
yeah. Okay, but yeah, I'm gonna try to get off that tangent.
I got you.
Okay,
but
go.
You know what breaker we're never gonna get?
God damn it, season 3?
Yes.
Fucking Christ! Now I want to go reread seasons 1 and 2 because I really liked them.
No, it's actually well within the time that it should be starting for season 3. So if it means anything, we'll probably see it in the next few months.
I don't believe you. That's the problem.
No, like the wait time is actually pretty normal between the breaks that we've seen so far for the breaker. So
between the breakers?
Yeah, the breaks between the breakers plus the length.
They need to break the breaks between the breakers, all right?
Okay, hire them a new drawing team.
Get faster. Get faster. Draw better, you fucks.
All right.
Don't have kids, just draw. Says Japan Animation Studios. Okay, go. Go with your topic.
All right. Common language can occur in uncommon settings, but does it ever bother you when certain words are used in a setting you find that they probably shouldn't exist in? Or can we just explain these things away?
Okay. Explain the fuck out of that because I have no idea.
All right, so here's like a little bit of an inverse of that.
Okay,
maybe.
Also, can you hand me the pizza, please? I'm hungry.
Yeah,
here you go. Okay, yeah.
So, all right, so basically recently I was watching a Grimgar Fantasy and Ash or whatever.
So you're watching what?
Grimgar, it was like a anime, and basically people get stuck in like or supposedly it's one of those stuck in a fantasy world, stuck in a game kind of things.
Okay, fair enough.
But it's like they don't even like really know it yet. So it's just like they say.
What do you mean they don't know it?
Like there's no status bars, so it's not. Maybe it's not a game. Maybe it is. But basically, what happens is that one guy tells the other, hey, this isn't a game, and the other person's like, what's a game? Well, maybe it's
what?
like it's like maybe it's like because it's a crappy like translation being like, hey, somebody says stop it, it's not a game. Maybe they just mean it's not a video game. But it's like basically, it kind of becomes a little more obvious that it's like you'll have these settings where somebody will use a word that really doesn't make any sense.
Okay, in that example, point out the word.
Like for that example, it was like game, but they for Asian people, it's like gameu can be like video game or whatever. So
yeah, but
maybe it was just like the use of the word.
I guess, but it still kind of makes sense. Because like this, we're not playing around here.
Yeah,
is the idea behind that sentence?
Okay, yeah, but that's like basically like the setup of it. It's like instead of having the person turn around and say like what, it's just like we continue on with this.
Go on.
And it's like it's also just been a little bit of something with like recently, like every once in a while I'll come across a word, and this is just me with my hobbies and what I do. Basically, I'll just like look at a word and I'll be like, where'd this word come from? And I have a little bit of fun with it. It really is fun. Yeah, like apparently like saboteur, it came from the word sabat, which basically is French for an unskilled worker. So it's like
sabat.
Yeah.
I thought that was that kicking style from France.
Yeah. That's like savate or something like that, though.
Oh yeah, you're right. It was close.
Surprised you know that though. That's nice.
Sabat?
That's some really nice stuff.
No,
yeah.
There's a move in Street Fighter that Guile has called Sabat Kick.
Yeah. So it's like maybe you'll come across something and it'll just be like in a series. Maybe they'll bring up something that's like a reference that came from maybe like a technological standpoint, Like,
okay.
And then
but they're talking to someone who doesn't know technology?
Or it's like this technology really shouldn't exist. Or maybe it's just like... It's like, where did this word come from? Why are these people using this word?
No.
It doesn't make sense.
We could chalk it up to translation errors.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I imagine the word has to be kind of close to what they translated for them to get to that,
Yeah, sure.
But I can't think of anything like that. Like a word that's kind of misplaced. In terms of like the context or the situation or anything like that. Because I
feel like I'm guilty of this too. Like I feel guilty because it's like I'll see something and I can probably like explain it away. Mm-hmm. Just like I'll see something in a series and then they'll just use a word and it's like, nope, that doesn't seem off at all. But then it's like every once in a while I'll go back and I'll just be like, this doesn't really seem right.
Well, give me examples from things that you've read because we've read a lot of the same stuff. And maybe I haven't noticed it, and you've noticed it. So, just throw some shit out there. Throw some shit into the wind.
I mean, I did have like as a general topic, and I really don't have much problem with like any kinds of like any of these things. It's like it was just like this idea didn't really come from an example, so I don't.
Okay, I see it.
I don't really have anything where I really have a problem with it, but it's like
it's an idea.
It's an idea. It's an idea that sometimes it kind of gets to me. Sometimes it's just like.
But you do have some good topics on there.
Yeah.
That you said to me before. And it's like, oh, shit.
It was just like, I mean, like, for example, it's like Saboteur, it's French.
Yeah.
So it's just like, whenever you see like any of these kinds of settings, it's like, it's not a French setting. It doesn't have the same pull behind it. So it's just like,
okay.
Where did we get this from?
Where did we get this from? That's true. I guess generally stuff like that makes a bit more sense. But there aren't too many words like that I use often. Actually, you pointed some words out to me a while ago. Like, peruse?
Peruse, yeah.
Yeah, you fucking blew my mind with that shit. Well, explain it,
yeah,
motherfucker.
Alright, so for context, like peruse, now it just basically means to like flip through something, a little carelessly just to see through it. But peruse, it used to mean to be very careful with your details, to go over it. It was a complete flip in what the word meant.
Yeah, it really is.
And
you're killing me with that shit though. Like,
so it'd just be like, next time somebody brings it up, you'll have to ask them like, which peruse?
Which peruse? Well, I'll probably understand from the context.
Yeah.
If they're like, I'm perusing art, it's like, okay, well, what do you mean by that though? What do you mean you peruse the art? You went through the details? You fucking combed through it? No, you looked at it? Use a different word. Alright, but go on, because there are some good topics in there.
Alright. We're getting a little closer. Basically, this is going to be a short one. Talking is not a free action.
This is going to be short? The fuck it is. This is going to be long. That happens all the time.
Alright. Basically, it's going to be a little bit of a personal opinion. Talking should get you hit.
Yeah.
If you're going to talk during a fight or whatever, in like a series or whatever, it's like you don't negate time. People shouldn't be as interested as they are to hear your motives.
Mm-hmm.
You should have the motive set up beforehand or maybe show it in an afterthought. But when you're fighting, you're down and set to fighting, and maybe you're not completely dedicated to just having the fight, and then maybe you do have those breaks.
Mm-hmm.
But you should make it like very clear that it exists within the timeline.
JoJo does this the worst.
Of course. Always a good example to fall back on because people are always looking at that.
JoJo has the worst. The worst part of it is just here. Just turn your chair facing this way.
Good idea.
Just use the box.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got you. All right.
The worst, and my biggest issue with it is mostly when Dio uses his time powers, and is like, all right, listen, I can control 10 seconds in the frozen time. That's how long I have to move around. Why is this one part a minute long? Oh, because it's not accurate? I know. It's kind of ridiculous to want accuracy in that because it's kind of impossible. But, god damn it, you shouldn't be talking this long. I don't care how fucking fantastical it is. I don't want this. This is dumb.
I feel like there's like a narration that you can do with things that would give it like a little bit more weight if you want to give narration between the idea of somebody actually doing something while they're doing it. And it works really great too for action scenes, is that you film the scene twice. So that way the second time that you see it, it overlaps and it creates a good idea for an impact.
Well, my question is with that kind of that topic and whatnot, it's so what's your view on when they're speaking to themselves in their minds?
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, you should still operate within the same like universe time. Like, you're either going to stop the action to have this explanation come out.
Well, because
slow it down.
JoJo is also a good example for this because JoJo will also time will freeze, and then they'll be saying stuff to themselves in their head for like a couple minutes, and it's like, oh well. It's
part of the narration style. It's kind of older, so it's like something that you can really expect. But I feel like with all the technology that we have at this time, that we're going more and more towards, the CG and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, if you don't have the timing down right, then it's going to start to feel off. Really
Berserk.
off. That is close. That is close to
It
what
just
I'm
doesn't
trying to
look
say.
good.
It's a completely different problem, and it was like a whole problem about giving all these different studios the rights because everyone they want like a piece of something, so we're just gonna animate different things.
Hey
and throw
man,
all
Berserk's
together.
hot shit. Everybody wants a piece of that Berserk.
But like what I'm kind of thinking here is that you can find ways to fill up time for when something should be happening.
Yeah, like the boat. Fuck that boat. And
Again,
that was a short trip.
halfway relevant, halfway not relevant.
I'm just shitting on the boat.
I know you can shit on the
I'm
boat
gonna
all you
shit
want.
all
The
over
boat
that
is
boat.
worth shitting on.
That poop deck is so full.
But like what I'm thinking is that like narration, like your mindset should also be in the same way as like the scene that's happening.
Mhm.
If something happens and you don't get it, they can go on ahead and re-emphasize it, and you'll get it the second time. You'll get it right. Like if you're gonna have moments of not clarity, then you should have moments of clarity.
Okay.
Like, all right, so we got some like really bad action scenes where it's like they'll cut away during the middle of of a hit, and they would just suggest that this hit happens. All right,
A manga does that a lot, where it's like there'll be a panel, and then the sword will swing, and then the next panel is just like a blood spray.
yeah, because that can be really bothersome, doesn't it? Because it's like you're putting yourself in the mindset of what should this fight look like.
The thing is, actually, there's did you read Beelzebub?
I did.
Beelzebub makes fun of that. There's a scene where like a scythe wielding demon shows up, swings. A panel is like there's like a blood spray panel, and then the very next one is him with his foot all up in that one's face, in the demon's face, and the demon's like, "What? You saw the panel. You're supposed to get hit." And he's like, "What? No, fuck that. I don't want to get hit. I'm gonna hit you." And it's like, thank you for doing the proper thing, and just not tanking the hit for no reason. And I can appreciate that, but not enough stuff does that.
Right.
Oh, God, my
So it's like, I suppose like part of the argument really does stem from, like this really takes me out of like the scene or the character or whatever's happening.
consistency and
sure.
What's the word?
Because it's like in action. Immersion.
It's immersion breaking.
Okay, immersion breaking. Because it's like in some action scenes, maybe you want to be a passive viewer.
Yeah.
In some scenes, you want to be a part of that. But it's like, if it ends up being too passive, then you don't really get invested at all.
I think the main issue that happens a lot with with shows that are aware that they have an audience. Like JoJo does it all the time, and that's because there's no way to get immersed in this because it's too ridiculous. It's too crazy. You can try to get immersed, but like the scenarios they're in are so fucking ridiculous that it's kind of impossible. And not only that, they know who they're making this for is the thing. It's meta kind of.
It's a situational awareness, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like taking it out of like just like a reading or watching perspective, people making it are like, well, it needs to be stylish because it's JoJo, and the people watching it expect it to be stylish. You can't have this like high ground immersion or consistency when you know what you have to make your show look and do to keep the audience, And that kind of sucks because that's not a lot of fun. It's fun, but it's not good.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So I get this is all mostly from my personal preferences, and some of it, just being like, hey, if you do this, because obviously there are ways to do it right. That's I'm gonna go on ahead and agree with. Like talking can be a free action if you do it right.
Yeah.
But if you do it wrong, like you say, hey, this should cost something, then you're gonna have to go on ahead and pay it out. Basically,
the easiest way to ever do it is just have the characters in a deadlock of some kind. Their swords clash and they start talking to each other. One of the best way to ever do it with JoJo would be you have Star Platinum and you have the world like fist collide, like do both the Aura and the Muda colliding, and Jotaro and Dio are just talking to each other while this is happening in front of them. Because that happens in the intro.
it does.
It's just like they're fighting and they're staring at each other. Just have them talk right then, and then continue the fight.
Yeah,
no time freeze.
They're able to talk then, but then it's like there are times when you can't talk. Like if somebody's getting suplexed, and their falling time is like seconds.
No, you can't have a sentence.
You can't have a sentence.
You
You don't get the right to have a full sentence.
Yeah, because the other guy's probably dead too. You're just suplexing them. It just doesn't work, and a lot of series do it. It sucks, but you just kind of got to get used to it. Sadly.
Yeah.
Nobody likes it. Nobody likes that. Well, there's probably people who like
There
that.
are probably people that like that because it's
idiots.
like
I'm
you probably
saying
get
right
the
now, you're
best
fucking
one-liners from this, just being like,
"Bye bye, JoJo."
yes.
Bye bye,
But that's
JoJo.
that's pretty quick line though. You could probably pull it off. I can see more than narrating things happening from like the long distance fights or finding a person.
Yeah, but
fights.
that's happening because Joseph. No, Jonathan.
Okay.
Jonathan. Jonathan's falling into the fire. He's like, bye bye, JoJo. It's like, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, but you do get the right to talk in some occasions, and I guess I might as well say, hey, this came to mind. This is probably a good time that
If
you can
there's
say
enough
it.
time for them to say something quick and witty, do it. I don't care about
Yeah.
that. It's the fact that you're spewing out paragraphs in like a millisecond.
Like, if you got somebody hunting somebody out, you got somebody just going on talking to the person they're hunting to, and you got the hunted guy just thinking about something. Yeah, you got that. Because you know what? You literally have the time. Go ahead and do it. It's the middle of a fight, but you know what? The fight's got some static times and it's got some dynamic times. When it's dynamic, don't waste time.
One Punch Man. One Punch Man does not waste time with any of their fights because they all end in one punch. Yeah. Have you been keeping up with One Punch Man?
No disagreement. I have not been keeping up with One Punch Man.
You should keep up with One Punch Man. It's kind of nearing the big monster fight. Like the Monster King. They're getting close to fighting him, kind of.
I'm going to find out who that is one day.
Who, the Monster King?
Yeah.
They show him.
I haven't seen him.
You should look. He's pretty cool. The dude who draws... What's his name? He drew Ice Shield 21. He does a fucking stellar job. He's really good.
No disagreements there. I started Ice Shield 21, but I just never finished.
Really? You should finish it.
I started the very beginning, and I never really even saw past the
The
first.
conclusion isn't the part you would think. Because you know how the whole deal is like we need to win the Christmas Bowl kind of thing. That whole deal. We need to win like our school's championship. That's like the gimmick. And then the true conclusion isn't that. It goes forward.
Oh.
And it's like, oh, okay. I wasn't expecting this, but I'm happy with it.
Beyond.
It kind of. I mean, I don't mind talking about it if you don't mind spoilers.
I mean, look, I never really mind spoilers, but it is something that I feel like I want to get back to, so that way we can have a
Well, then
reasonable
I'm not gonna
discussion
fucking
about
talk about it. Yeah, just say that. That's fine.
Yeah, I want to be able to have a dialogue about it. And
You need to read Ichi the Killer and finish Ice Shield 21.
It'll happen.
Those are good. Well, one's good, the other one's alright.
All right. So, moving on with topics.
Yeah, okay.
We got characters. They're going to be like specialized in something. Maybe it's a hobby.
Okay.
Maybe it's their way of life. Maybe they got a goal. Maybe they got to be the best at what they do.
Uh-huh.
But anyhow, like any series is going to have a niche. And it's like this niche is going to have very specific jargon and terms, It's like
Okay.
maybe there's like a special kind of salad bowl that you use for salads and a special kind of mixing bowl that you use for mixing or whatever
Where the fuck
when it
is
comes
this
to
going?
cooking. But basically, like, the idea is that you would have to explain that sort of thing, yeah? You would have to be like, hey, this is like an Erlenmeyer
What, not
flask,
explaining
this is
jargon?
yeah, not explaining jargon.
Oh, that makes sense.
So, like, at what point would explaining jargon just become too much? And it's like, we
Sword
just gotta
Art
give up.
Online.
That was quick. What brought you to say Sword Art Online?
Because it explains the most basic shit you have ever heard. We're gonna go grinding. What's grinding? It's fucking clear what grinding is. You're fucking grinding. We're gonna go farm gold. It's like, what's farming that? It's like, well, that's fucking innocence, man. Come on. It's like, it's the most basic MMO shit you've ever heard, and it's very clear what it is, but they're gonna explain it.
Like flavored language or whatever.
Kind of, but it's like, it's even more basic than that.
Oh.
Like, I imagine even people who aren't into video games can understand what that is.
So it's like you just put forth the suggestion, and then maybe you like refer to the suggestion like a little bit more, but then you're done with it. Like you don't have to outright say it. Like for example, if it was just like, hey, let's go grinding. It's like, hey, do you want to like go another round or two of these? And it's like, yeah, sure.
Well, I feel like the context should always explain what the jargon is. If you say, I'm going to go grind levels, it's very clear what that person means. But if they say, I'm going to go grind, well, then maybe that's a little unclear, because that could mean a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of things.
Yeah, you can go work on that dude's dick, that whole thing. But if you say, I'm going to go farm gold, it's very clear that you're just going to go work for gold, or you're going to go kill stuff for gold, or you're going to get stuff to sell for gold.
Right.
It's very clear what that means. And yeah, there's a lot of, like I just said, like 3 different things of what it could be. But it doesn't matter because it's all going to end in the same way of getting gold. That's what that is. You don't need this hyper explanation of stuff that doesn't need explaining.
Right. And if it becomes too detailed, should you like maybe save it for later or decide, if it doesn't work completely, just cut it out?
Well, also the thing is like, there aren't too many. I'm not going to say there aren't too many because I don't remember fully. But it does happen a good bit in Sword Art of just like explaining very basic jargon. I don't know if this is in it, but I'm fairly certain they tried to explain what PvP is, and that's fair. PvP is an acronym. There's no if you don't know what PvP means or stands for, if you don't know what One Piece stands for, you're never gonna get it. Do you even know what it means? PvP?
Yeah, I know if you player versus player.
Yeah, but if you don't know anything about video games, I can understand not knowing and having to explain that. But all the other basic stuff, that's like context, clue heavy, you don't need to explain that.
Right. Because it's like, from what I understand, you gotta go into something with the idea that the person that's going into it knows nothing.
Also, they're in a video game. I don't think anyone who's playing an MMO wouldn't know these terms. That was my first one. Fuck off. You're playing an MMO. You know what this is. Like, this is not your first one. You don't play an MMO to start out with and then not play other MMOs. That's not how it works.
True. Even if you drop them soon, you've probably gone through a few. Probably.
Yeah. They're all right. But I don't know if there are too many other jargon-filled shows or mangas. I'm trying to think of one. It's probably something with like a lot of magic in it.
Maybe something with some magic, maybe something that requires styles like sports ones, I think probably involve a decent amount of jargon.
Okay, sports are fair, because I don't know anything about sports. So I kind of need that explained to me.
Yeah.
But I can kind of get it from the word itself, like in iShield 21.
Something that...
Well, also, I feel like it's very character-based. Like iShield 21, Senna doesn't know shit about football. Of course they would explain to him what all the stuff is.
Yeah. So
that makes sense.
There's like a pattern of things that I've noticed with some of the sports ones, like maybe Hajime no Ippo, maybe just name drop that.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like you'll either see it in training or you'll see it like in the ring, and then they'll do it a second time. So that way, it's just sort of like, hey, did you miss that? Look at it again. Here it comes.
What's an uppercut? It's like, well, okay, come on, Ippo. I think Hajime no Ippo has it really weird because the jargon they explain is all like made up terms in the show. Here comes the second swallow. It's like, well, what the fuck even is the first swallow?
Like it. Yeah, I mean, in that case, they're just making up words.
They're not making up words. It's terms used to describe things that are just normal moves.
Yeah.
What is the second swallow? He turned his hand.
And a lot of it is just like about visualization. Like, I guess like in Dragon Ball Z, you got like 5 different terms for the same kind of move. It's like, hey, you shoot energy out of your hands.
Yeah, but it's
not different.
It's his color.
But it's his color.
It's his color.
Yeah, but it's his color.
The jargon is the color. Majin Buu is pink. What does that mean?
I mean, jargon is words, but it's like it takes the function for the word, it's like you have this idea and you want it all to go up in just like an instant. You want to understand it immediately. That's your word.
There's a prime example kind of this.
Okay.
It's not of jargon, but it kind of connects to it. It's so in Metal Gear Solid, the series, has a real kind of a big problem with this. I'm not going to say it's a big problem, but they have a problem with it, where the character you're playing as for that respective game, for all intents and purposes, is completely fucking ignorant of the world that they work in and their job. Because, like, What's a good one?
What's Kenya? Like, does he ever be like, what's Kenya?
No, not like, it's not that extreme. But it's like in the second game. No, it's here. There's a good way to like basically sum it up. Snake and a guy are talking. The guy says, blah 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 blah, term, blah blah blah. Snake is like, term, and the guy is like explains the term for like everything. And it's like, Snake, this is your career. You should know these things. Like, what's a good one? I can't. That's been so fucking long. Like, I think there's one in Metal Gear Solid 2. Well, there are some good examples of it. Like in Metal Gear Solid 2, there's a thing of like, okay, you need to go defuse these bombs. Well, how would I know how to do that? That makes sense. That's not your job to defuse bombs. You learning this new way to defuse a bomb makes sense, and him explaining to you makes sense.
Right.
Shit like that. But at the same time, it's a really weird switch where the character you aren't playing as, if they show up in that game, they're a fucking expert on everything going on. Metal Gear Solid 2, Snake shows up in that game, and he knows everything.
It'd be fair.
He's explaining to Raiden what's going on his job site.
It'd be fair to say this is on-the-job learning and not like office learning.
But, like, you should know these things. Like, okay, Snake, Raiden, don't shoot the gun in the missile silo room. But why not? It's like, let's shut the fuck up. You know why. It's a missile silo. You're gonna set some shit off. Oh, man, what's a good one? No, Metal Gear Solid 4 has it really bad. Because at the very beginning of that game, Snake starts off by explaining what's happening in the world, and then when you play, he proceeds to know nothing about the world. Like, there's a whole thing in the game called with ID tagged guns, where it's like guns are ID tagged to the person, so only they can use them. And Snake's like, what is that? And it's like, shut the fuck up, Snake. You should know this.
You have one.
No, he doesn't. Apparently, he doesn't.
Shame.
Apparently, he just doesn't have that.
He doesn't exist, I guess.
It's just really weird, and I'm not. It's so fucking weird.
No fingerprints.
Apparently, I don't know. There's a part near the beginning where Snake's picking up like a M14 dropped by some dude, and you see him pull out his knife, get into the prone position, and like put the knife underneath the gun just in case there's something there. It's like, Snake, just pick up the fucking gun. And he's like, well, it could be booby trapped. It's not even gonna work for you. Metal Gear Solid is really weird with stuff like that. I think the first one has some really funny ones though. Like he's like, what is muff?
Oh.
Apparently muff's a term. I don't remember what it stands for. We'll look it up later. I'll show you.
You sure you're gonna?
I'm gonna show you that. I'm gonna show you all about Snake's muff. Yeah.
I thought you got lost on the.
No, that's real. That happened. What is muff? Muff. Yeah. Pick the next topic.
So precious, we must protect them.
Oh, don't do that. Don't make it that weird.
All right, so
yeah.
The next one is a little bit more of a vague topic. You can't really like describe it without using like sentences, but it's like
so everything.
Or not words, but like you can do it with sentences. That was a flub on my part.
No.
All right, so
welcome to the podcast.
Basically, would it be better for characters to have an unpredictable path, even if the details aren't completely laid out, or is it like that we have full details, so that way people realize that there's a choice? Like, if I had to like give this like a best example, it's like for full details completely shown out.
Yeah.
Like, let's suppose it's like some sort of reality TV show where it's like you see like 5 or 6 people,
okay,
trying to do a task, and they do a task a different way.
Okay.
Now, like, imagine that you have one person, and it's like you throw enough detail their way. It's like, hey, you can do something this way or this way or this way.
It's like giving someone the instruction book and the other people the tools.
Yeah, so it's like giving somebody, like all the instructions on how to do something, like throwing 5 guidebooks at somebody, being like, all right, here's a task. These 5 guidebooks can get you anywhere. But if you pick one, there's going to be some downsides onto the other ones. So, or some downsides on it. So, it's like, this is going to feel like a choice that you have right here. Like, whatever you do with it.
Okay.
Or should we have it like a little bit unclear, be like, hey, there is no guidebook for this. You're going to have to make it work.
Okay.
Because I can understand, like, the strength for one is that, like, this person has to be, like, savvy in what they do for it to be, like, the details aren't very clear.
Yeah.
But then in the other one, it can feel like that you got a choice, and then it kind of works like it can work in your favor in some ways. And it can even like set up a situation where you got like 5 different people that did 5 different ways, and it's like, hey, I recognize what that person's doing because they introduced that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they both definitely have their ups and downs, but I feel like unpredictability can hurt a series a lot more than having just full on the details. Because if you're unpredictable, you can really land yourself in a really shitty situation where it's like, well, that solution makes sense, but what about the thing that you said in the first chapter where you would never do something like that? That kind of thing. Where it's like trying to be unpredictable can lead to loopholes.
Sure.
I think a good example of this is Beyond Two Souls, like the David Cage games. Not the David Cage games, but that one in particular. Because the plot is clearly laid out. Like, there's a chronological order to the events that happen. But it doesn't really work because of how they set it up.
I think you told me about this one. Where,
yeah, I definitely did. I'm pretty sure I talked about it on microphone as well. But it does kind of work in this because they had the entire story laid out. But just having it laid out doesn't mean... Because it's very clear that they wanted to be kind of unpredictable with the story, but they already knew what they had. Like, they've written everything out. They had the script and everything, but they wanted it to be different or innovative and, like, unpredictable. So they took the script or the storyline, and they put it out of order, where you do events out of order. And it doesn't really work, because it's really poorly done. And, fuck it, I'll get into it. Who cares? Do you mind if I get into it again?
Not so much, but I understand.
I'll keep it short.
Okay. Keep it short.
Okay, like the prime example of this, in terms of trying to be unpredictable but messing it up, is the thing of your character could see dead people, like their ghosts and stuff. And you see that when they are an adult and they are doing it on purpose. Like they're actively trying to talk to ghosts and stuff. And then you flash back to when she is a child and she is first encountering this ability to see ghosts and dead people. The impact is lost because you've already seen that when she is completely calm and is just plainly doing it. The impact of that moment and ability exposure is lost. But they had that written out. They knew when the character was going to see it, but they wanted to be unpredictable with it, so they threw it in at a bad moment.
Yeah, so I guess what it would be like is like you're starting off with showing you all your options, but then they're reintroducing the options again as if it were something new.
Yep.
And it's
not.
It's
and
not
that's really
out.
Bad. That's poor writing.
Yeah,
what I would call that.
Because you're forgetting that their first experience with it is going to be this. It's not that it's not like it matters now to know that she speaks to ghosts. Yeah,
it's just not surprising. The impact is not there. The impact is not where it should have been. And it also makes it more confusing because it's like the viewer has never seen this power, but their reaction is not matching up with the character on screen. Because she's just like, yeah, I'm fucking ghosts or whatever. And you're just like, what the fuck? You can talk to ghosts when this happened. And then you see it happen. And it's like, that's when it happened? Why the fuck am I looking at this then? And I think those scenes are actually back to back too, which makes it even more frustrating. Because it's like, you were right there. You knew this was going to happen. It's like they didn't have like a proper test group. But that's like the best example I can come up with for something like that. But it's kind of like a weird reverse of what you're talking about because it's a combination of both. They had everything they needed, but they wanted to be unpredictable. You see what I mean with that?
Yeah, I see that. Okay. I see that.
But I'm struggling to think of a story or a singular story that wants to be purely unpredictable or purely everything's written out.
Like, I suppose that this wouldn't be like a fair example, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But it's like, apparently LA Noire, you have those options. And then one of the options, they're going to be actually a little bit harsher than it says that it is. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, you feel like you have all these choices. But when it comes down to one of these choices, it's not exactly what you expect. So it's like
I can understand that, but I think the bigger issue with like using LA Noire as an example is because the choices do matter. is the thing with it.
Right.
Because you can be wrong. Like, the correct answer could be to call truth and, like, believe them and say, well, okay, I believe you. What other information can you now give me because I'm believing you? But if you pick doubt, they'll claim up and you won't get any more information. The game will become more unpredictable because of the player's choices.
Okay. And it's pretty hard to say like something for like in terms of unpredictability, because it's like we have stories that are unpredictable, you know, it's like you got mysteries, you got all this other kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But basically it's like, I feel like if I brought up an example, people would be like, you know, you just weren't paying attention enough. They had this information over here.
Yeah, that's true.
But then it's just like, you know, sometimes it's like, what is expected of this, you know? Like, where should our expectations be when we're like following something? Should we have no expectations really about what they're supposed to be doing? Or should we have all of our expectations laid out and then it's like, all right, this is a choice that's happening right here?
That's interesting. I never really thought about it like that. I'm trying to think of other stuff.
But like, I guess like the closest I can really get to like comparing the choices bit with is usually like reality sort of stuff. Because you get to see those options laid out. And then also like stories, they really tend to stay away from this too. Because then you get like detail heavy where it's like, oh, well, you know, you can get like this ring or this sword or this, you know, like, and then it's like, hey, I picked this.
I think the biggest thing with in terms of like choices and this kind of thing where it's like it's very clear that the plot of the like an LA noir, you have a detective, you have a case to solve. There's you start at A and then you go to B, but the path you take to get to B is very different depending on your actions. But you're always going to get to B.
Right.
Well, in this case, in terms of LA Noir, B is a really weird variable because ending at B, you could pick the wrong guy. Like in the homicide cases, there's multiple people who you end up with at the station, and you can be like, okay, I think he did it. You could be wrong. So that's where I like about LA Noir is because you could be wrong at the very end. You could fuck it up. But the thing is, there's a lot of stories that try that and don't do it very well. David Cage games are a good example.
Always
They're a great
the fallback example.
Because they will always guide you to the ending no matter what. Like, no matter what you do.
Your choice doesn't matter.
Literally, David Cage has said this. Game overs are a failure of the game designer. You having a game over is not your fault for playing badly or anything. It's the people who design the game's fault. So that's why Beyond Two Souls, as far as I know, has no game over states. Or you could have a game over state, but you'll just go back. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, but
at that point, why give people choices?
At that point, why play the game? Dude, it's like, no, and that's like the really weird thing with it is because in Beyond Two Souls, your choices clearly don't matter. Because of the time gaps, your character's choices actually don't matter. Like there's this guy who you can have a romantic relationship with. Every single time you meet him, you can tell him to fuck off the edge of your dick. Every time. But at the end of the game, you're still in a relationship because of the time gaps. So clearly something happened between those time gaps that you now like him again, but every time you see him, you could tell him to fuck off, and it doesn't matter. That's your choices not mattering, and that's bad unpredictability.
He wants to be a movie director, not a video game director.
He's an asshole. Well, because he wants to make games that are movies, and you can't do that. You can't, let me phrase it, you can do that. It's very difficult to do. Because you have to have so many more variables. LA Noire is like probably the best example because of how many variables there are.
Just give him a Telltale game then.
That's not true either because Telltale games will also lead you to the end. And you'll have game over states, but it doesn't really affect much.
I mean, it's like the best I can suggest for the dude.
No, I understand. Like they're good examples, but at the same time, it's like a lot of your choices don't matter that much. They'll make scenarios easier, but it's not going to completely overwhelm you ever. It's always going to be solvable, unless it's like extremely time based. I think the first season of the Walking Dead Telltale games is probably like the best example because it's like there's multiple game over states or things that can happen, but you're always going to make it to the end.
Yeah,
you're always going to make it to the right conclusion.
Confessing that I suck at some games probably isn't anything of a new revelation.
No.
But I'll also like reveal that my depth perception was shit, and there's like this one scene for
the first
Walking Dead,
okay.
where not like the very first one, but somewhere in the first season, where it's like you just gotta have a Clementine aim a gun, and it's just like aim a bit up, aim a bit to the left. My depth perception is shit, so I was just like fucking up on that scene too many times.
That's really bad.
That's really bad, and I feel like at some point they should have just given me the game over statement. Game over, you shot Clementine.
You shot her. No, she shot herself because you're shooting in a train. The bullet ricocheted.
Given enough circumstances, why not?
Good job, Clementine. You really wrecked yourself. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, but in terms of stuff like that and story-driven games like that, I feel that's pretty much my thoughts on it.
Right.
In terms of, but overall, I think I prefer a well-written story over unpredictability.
Like I feel like that's like a little bit farther away from the point I was trying to make, because it's like
well the basic question was which do you prefer, right?
Well, yeah, like more elements in the story or like predictability of it.
Okay, I like more elements because LA Noire does it the best. There's tons of elements in that game that'll always get you to where you want to go, but you have to be smart about it. Can't be dumb and solve every case correctly. I got through most of them, but I solved a lot of cases wrong. Because you got to read people's faces, and that's fucking difficult to do.
Right. So I guess it's just the thing that more elements doesn't always translate to less predictability. It's just that.
Yeah. There's a really fine balance to it all. David Cage does it the worst though, and he's shit at his job. He should stop making video games. Fucking die. I'll say it. I don't care. I don't like him. This is well known and documented. What's he gonna do?
Heard it here first.
Nothing. No, I did not hear it here first. I'm not new to the David Cage hate train.
All right, but your hatred is unique.
But I'm shoveling the coal.
All right. So that's all that I have for my topics,
really?
Basically. We ran through all those pretty quick. Other than what makes a person strong, basically. I guess that was like something at the beginning I was thinking about asking, but it's just like strength is pretty relative, and that's
I have a weird topic that I thought of recently because of. So I was listening to not a podcast, but there's a fighting game player named Chris G, who I'm a big fan of. He plays he's the Evo winner for Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
No. And
he was talking about how this year at Evo, Marvel was not on the initial list for games. No, it wasn't that it wasn't on a list, but like I think how it works now is they have like a separate venue for like the really big games that get like the stadium to play in for their top 8, like the grand finals. And I don't think Marvel was going to be there initially because it kind of sucks, but that game's basically dead. Like there's not a whole lot of new players. A lot of the new players don't come out to compete and stuff, and things like that. The game has not expanded, but to be fair to the game, it's been out for like 10 years. It's been out for a very long time, but it's still being played. The issue is that it recently got a port to PS4 and Xbox One, like a 1080, 60 frames a second port,
That's kind of weird.
Why?
10 years? Then they got like a port to
because people are still playing it, clearly. But the issue with the competitive scene isn't that the game isn't being played, it's that the game isn't getting new people. Like, the game isn't getting enough new, good people. Like, I swear to God, top 8 at EVO every year has been like the same 10 pool of people. There's like a couple, like pretty much every year there's Filipino champ, Chris G, Justin Wong, and Kane Blue River. There's like the same group of people have consistently made top 8 and top 3 every single year for that game.
That can be a problem.
It's a problem because it's just like, well, I don't want to watch this match again for the 50th time. And Chris G on his stream was talking about how a lot of people have come out and are like, hey man, we should support the scene now. Like, because I'm skipping ahead, sorry. So with the PS4 port, Marvel is now being played on a PS4, but it used to be played on a 360 because that was the best port of the game. Like there was no like input lag. It ran really well. It was the best version you could play of that game locally. That kind of thing. The PS4 port has about 2 frames of input lag. Like locally, I think, is the big concern. And tournaments are now going to be held, or I think EVO is now going to be held on a PS4. And Chris G's big deal is like, why are we changing it for the last, like, people have said this is like the last year of Marvel. 2017 is the last year of Marvel. Capcom 3. Like, not Infinite, but 3. Why change it for the last year? Is this big question. That doesn't make sense. And to me, that also doesn't make sense. This game's been played on 360 for years, and you're going to switch it at the last year to a port people look really bad on? Like, the best players in the world at that game are dropping basic combos that they've done for years. Because the game is different now, basically. You have to play it differently. You can't play it the way you used to play it. It's a really strange thing.
At a point where you need more diversity in players, you're going to go on ahead and weed everybody out now?
Kinda. But the issue, with that though, the game isn't gonna. I guarantee these same players are going to be a top 8 again at EVO, even with this, because they are still the best at the game.
I'm thinking that's probably less of a in spite of, and it's more of a because of now at this point.
Yeah, and I don't know how to really feel about it, because it's like, well, I mean, it looks better. But is that justification enough to completely change how you've had to play this game? Is appearance that big of a deal? And also, there was another guy, Yipes, who was like a really big member of the scene. Like he really pushed the game. And I remember watching a stream of his that was saying, like, he was talking about how he was surprised that it wasn't like an initial pick for EVO, because it's always been there. It's like a legacy game. It's been at every EVO. Why wouldn't it be at this one? It's like, because people aren't gonna fucking. Okay, here's like the best example I could ever think of people don't play this game or compete for it anymore. EVO, Evolution World Series, the worldwide fighting game tournament, Marvel vs. Capcom 3. What Chris G won last year, and he said what he got. What do you think? How much money do you think he won from grand finals that year, 2016?
I mean, I don't keep up with this sort of stuff, but I would think at least several thousand.
Okay.
Even if it's like 10,000.
It's $4,000. He got $4,000 from the World Championship of a fighting game that's all over the world. That's really low.
That sounds low.
It's extremely low. He went to, I think he was talking about it, he went to like a local tournament in SoCal for Street Fighter V and got $1,400 from a local. That's almost half from the World Series for Marvel. This game's fucking dead. No, I don't like. No, people having it at EVO is fine, but I don't think it should take. I think another game, like a newer game or something, maybe like one. Yes, it was voted on. Like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was voted on by like the community to be on the center stage, or like on the big stage. But at the same time, that doesn't mean people are going to come out to compete. Just because people like watching it doesn't mean that you're going to make a lot of money from it. And that's kind of the sad thing about EVO, is because you can watch it for free on Twitch. You don't have to pay to watch it.
Dying, man.
It's bad.
This brings up like a question to mind. Like this wasn't like an original topic that I had, and it's like I guess it's somewhat more relevant. Do you feel like some of our technology, or not like technology in general, but our presentation of it is going like in the wrong way? Because it's like we're putting aesthetics a little bit over mechanics of things, or like the overall delivery.
I think in terms of this, I do agree with that kind of. I feel what you mean.
Because I got like an example too.
Yeah,
like,
go for it.
I'll
put a pin in it.
I'll definitely let you finish yours.
Yeah, go for it.
It's like, because like I saw like somebody made this complaint and they showed like two pictures. Like one was like a GIF of The Simpsons like way back when, and one was a more recent one.
Yeah.
And it's like with the animated one, you could see all the choppy images. You could see like all of like the frames going through. Yeah. And it's like even though it looks crisper, it doesn't really have anything behind it. And even when the older Simpsons, it was drawn, it had like all those like exaggerated movements.
I think the bigger issue with something like that compared to older to newer is definitely the people behind it. Because I mean, things can be old and still be funny.
Yeah.
Like in terms of The Simpsons, just because it's newer and looks better doesn't make it funnier. Like I'll watch the older stuff any day because it's funnier than the newer stuff.
I am speaking like strictly from like an animation kind of like
okay, sorry about that.
Or like an animation or image kind of thing, because I know that you were saying with like the more recent one, it's like we got these like frame issues, we got like this.
Yeah, it all depends on. I don't think presentation is that important to me. I mean, I don't think the prettiness of something should ever take over the mechanics of something.
Right, and I've noticed that like things are looking a lot nicer, but then people complain about like, hey, why are there like these frames missing? Like, probably like our best example right now would be Mighty Number 9, where it's apparently they were trying to make it look nicer, but then they tried to do mechanics and then they got neither of it.
Yeah, I never played Mighty Number 9, and I haven't seen a lot for it. But I just know that some of the mechanics for it aren't great.
It doesn't play very fast. It doesn't play very well.
It's not. It doesn't play like Mega Man. That's people's biggest issues is that it was promised to be basically a Mega Man game, and it doesn't play like a Mega Man game.
And I'm wondering, like, maybe they couldn't, like, maybe they didn't deliver because they mismanaged their money, but maybe they did deliver because they tried to make it look nice. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, if you try to make something look nice...
So the issue is we're never going to know with something like that. They're never going to come out and say, like, yeah, us trying to make it pretty made it be bad. But, I mean, with something like Marvel vs. Capcom 3, you can assume, like, jumping a game from, like, I'm going to assume 720, 30 frames a second to 1080 at 60, it's probably going to cause some issues. Because like you're forcing a game to overperform, and it does perform, and it looks really nice. But if top players in the world are saying it has issues that are kind of detrimental to playing the game at a competitive level, maybe it's not worth it. It's that kind of thing.
No, I get that.
Yeah, it's such a weird situation with something like that because, and this is I think my bigger point on that, it's my issue isn't the game, it's the mentality of the people who are coming out to want the game more.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, okay. And I think Chris G also said that. Sorry for being so confused.
No, it's cool.
This. So the thing is, okay, Chris G was saying like, yeah, this game is dead and whatnot. Oh, it's gonna be at Evo. Okay, that's fine. The thing with his point was like, where were all of these people years ago? Where were these people yesterday for the game? Because he's been in the scene the whole time. He's been supporting stuff the whole time. Day one. He's been playing that game competitively for years and all that stuff. And then but when like people start basically shit talking this version of the game, all these fucking Crusaders come out of nowhere and are just like, no, but it's Marvel. Like, come on, it's Marvel, man. It's fucking support the game, support PS4. We want more stuff like this. And it's like, yeah, but you can't say that. You weren't here. Or you were here, but you didn't do anything. Like, I like Marvel and I like playing it, but no, I'm never going to say I supported the scene just because I bought the fucking game. I like playing it. That's me. I'm never going to say that, yeah, I'm so active in the community that I'm gonna go out of my way to support tournaments and stuff. It's because I don't care that much. I don't care enough about a game that's 10 years old to want to do this. But people who care that much but haven't been supporting the scene are the ones talking most shit about other people not supporting the game.
That sounds a little bit more normal about it because it's just like,
but it's like
notably,
yeah.
like maybe like Marvel series. Mm-hmm. Like Marvel Comics, you'll notice that the people that raise the most complaints about things that will, well, I mean, I don't want to say this is like a general kind of vague thing because like I don't really like the directions that some of Marvel Comics has been going in.
Yeah, that's fair.
I listen to people review Marvel Comics and it's just sort of like, oh well, I didn't come to like comics to see this. I just rather see the characters, and then it's like I feel like a lot of these things with the characters just kind of they don't care about their characters. I personally believe, but then it's like you'll notice that when people raise complaints, usually when the complaints are unfounded, it's not from the base. It's not from like the consumer base. It's from somebody who heard about that this series did this.
It's from the pirates, not the purchasers.
Sure,
kind of,
kind of. Except I would say that some of these people have no interest in it. It's just like the idea is just like painful.
It's the brand. It's like I like X-Men.
Sure,
but the characters don't matter to me because X-Men.
Right. Sure.
I know X-Men is supposed to be good. So when I see something about X-Men that isn't good, I'll complain. Is it that kind of thing?
It's kind of that kind of thing, but then it's also just like...
It's the legacy of the brand in its own way?
Like, kind of like take the brand,
yeah.
But then it's like, it could happen anywhere. And it's like, this person sees this and it's like, well, I don't like seeing this theme or this idea.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, that seems really dumb.
Yeah.
And it's just like... The people that typically have this complaint and have it in a valid kind of way are just like, hey, this character is built on something. You can build it off of another character, or you could have it like an idea that fixes into the story. It's like when it's a valid complaint, it's like somebody who's actually he takes a look at it, they read it, they're a consumer.
They are pointing out things within the story to support their argument.
Yeah.
But on the other spectrum of it, you have the people just yelling about their feelings, and it's like, well. You have no basis for this.
You can't do that.
You can't yell at a company about how you feel.
And it kind of ties into what you're saying, because it's just like, where were you? It's like, if you
weren't here, shut your fucking mouth, all right? You don't get to complain. I'm not going to complain because I don't give a fucking mouth.
Because it's like, when it's like you were here, like you kind of built on the success of it, like when people were like working on having this thing work, they were gonna probably like do everything short of put this thing in your hands, basically. And while, it kind of really upsells, like, hey, like you said, I bought the game because I like it. I'm going to play it,
But I'm never going to complain about how the scene or how the community is failing the game, because it's not. The community has been dead for 10 years. I think we can finally get over it and move on to Marvel Infinite. But the thing about, talking about Marvel Infinite, a person leaked the character list recently.
Did they now?
Well, kind of. It's supposedly the person who leaked it is credible because they've leaked other stuff and has been accurate. So apparently on the Marvel side of things, there's like no X-Men characters.
That's not surprising considering
Fox.
How the rights.
But here's my thing. Apparently it's a big issue to people. And this is, I kind of want to talk about this. It's legacy characters or the legacy of a brand within another brand. Because X-Men characters have always been in Marvel vs. Capcom. But to me, because I'm so new to Marvel vs. Capcom, my first one was fucking 3. Like, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was like my first one. And also, I don't care enough about comics to really follow it that much. I like X-Men characters, but that should never be the reason I'm going to buy a game. And I mean,
it's like buying cereal.
It's like buying cereal. I'm not going to buy what's on the fucking box. I'm going to buy what I like about it. Tastes good. Looks good. I don't care that Wolverine's not in the game. I'll get over it. There's other characters I like. I mean, I think this being an argument point is really petty.
I can see that.
Because it's like, no, a character's involvement in something should never be the driving force.
At some point, though, I would think that maybe we want to concede that if there's something that seems like more complete. Like, think about like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 versus Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate. It's like one has more characters.
Yeah.
The layout's a little bit different, but it's like you have more variety.
Well, the vanilla version and like the Ultimate version are pretty much the same game, just with a better layout and more characters.
And with that, I would probably say a little bit more of that comes down to timing. And something that has pissed people off is that new announcement for like the new Pokemon Sun and Moon, where it's like not even a year has passed, and they're going to go on ahead and release a remake with more Pokemon.
Isn't it for the Switch?
No, I haven't heard any announcements for the Switch, but it's just
Sun and Moon. Isn't the full title something different? It's like Stars, Sun and Moon or something? I thought it was different.
I mean, I haven't paid too close of attention to the announcement.
Neither have I. I listened to a podcast and they talked about it for like a minute.
Okay, but basically like the idea is you're running with the same idea, but you kind of get more but it's like it's the same idea basically.
Okay, I have a thought about that though. Isn't that what Pokemon's been doing for like decades?
Yes, but I would think never so blatantly because it hasn't even been a year since they did this. Like think about like the time gap between like Red and Fire Red.
Okay,
Green.
So my point to that is that I don't think they care that much because they've re-released the black and white versions again. They didn't do anything to the games. They just re-released the black and white games. Not Pokemon Black and White, like the game. Well, like the oldest versions, like Yellow. They re-released Pokemon Yellow, the game that has no color.
Okay, like when they released it, was it like cheaper on the store? Like, hey, now you can do it with like 3DS.
I don't know. I think it was like $20.
Because like unless you're re-releasing it to like have it port onto a new device, it doesn't make sense to re-release it.
No, they did port it. They ported it to a new device. They didn't do anything to the game. They just re-released it. They just ported it over.
I have no problem with that if you make it cheaper, like a lot cheaper.
I don't think they did. I think it was like $20 when it came out for a version of a game that was not altered in like any significant way.
They know their base. They're allowed to put the price on what they want.
It's like
if people buy it and you put it at a high price, there's literally no problem with that.
Here's my point to it. At that point, just emulate that shit. Yeah. You don't need to buy it again. That game doesn't even look good anymore.
Encouraging pirating, man?
Yeah. Yes. No, it's not pirating because they probably bought it before. Yeah.
All right.
Listen, they're not going to find me. Fuck you. Fucking come at me. Here's my thing. I don't encourage pirating if the game needs support. Like, I bought Tekken 7.
Okay.
Because I like Tekken and I want them to keep making Tekken.
Tekken loves you.
They better. I bought Yakuza 0, a series that does not sell well in the West. Because I want them to keep bringing them over because they're really cool. Also, fun fact, the Yakuza series and the Persona series are like inverse in terms of sales. Persona sells better in the West than it does in the East, like Japan and America. And Yakuza sells better in Japan than it does in America. It's so weird. You would think it'd be the opposite. Well, actually, no, not the opposite, but you think it'd be somewhat the same. Or I would actually think Persona would sell better like in both places.
I haven't seen anything from it that I disagree with. I haven't bought either of the games, so I guess I can't really say. I can't really say as someone, as a consumer.
Yeah, but you play fucking the 3DS games.
Yeah.
You're probably going to buy the new Monster Hunter when it comes out.
Probably.
You're going to play with all those Switch players. You fuck.
Eventually, one day.
You will.
Gotta save
What do you think about the new Monster Hunter?
New Monster Hunter? I definitely don't have any problems with it. I haven't played Cross. Mm-hmm. I've heard like a thing about complaint about it. It's just like, hey, all these controls, they're simpler. Mm-hmm. So when I play the previous games, I forget to do this, which is like, this is more like introducing new people into the genre, which really works. You gotta have those reboots not reboots, but you gotta have like those series where it's like, hey, people are falling off. Let's get a new consumer base.
Well, I think. Oh, sorry.
That was what Marvel's problem was with your previous example of bringing it up and over. There was no incentive for new people to get on it. It was the old base.
It just looked better. It wasn't really even worth it.
Yeah.
Plus, that game's really hard to get into because it's a hard game to get good at. Like, the level of movement and execution's really high. Like, it's really hard for a casual fan to get into that. But besides that, on a different note, I want to talk about Monster Hunter for a second.
Yeah.
Because I listened to a podcast where a guy is a really big fan of it, and he was talking about it. Apparently, they're putting, like, all the monsters in. From, like, previous games to this. Like, I think he was saying it would be, like, over 100 monsters.
I mean, that's great. That's actually good. I love that.
But he was saying that they haven't really put, like, in terms of screenshots and stuff and what he's seen, there hasn't been a whole lot of money put into it because a lot of the models have just been carried over. Yeah?
Okay, so I gotta work out like a little bit of an opinion with that because it's like I don't really have so much of a problem with that because it's like basically if somebody plays the game, they know what the monster, All right, so this is gonna be a
Well,
weird.
actually, I should mention they did bring over one monster. I forget the name of it. It's like some Chinese kind of name.
Yeah.
But they did redo it because it was so old that if they put it in there, it would look way worse than anything.
Yeah,
else.
Understandably.
So they reworked that one, but they haven't really reworked a lot of them.
So I'm not sure how much my opinion would also count on this because I love Monster Hunter.
You know
but
Monster Hunter way better than I do.
But I also suck at video games, so it's
but
like
you play Monster Hunter.
I play a lot. But honestly,
So you are so much more validated.
What I've got to say is that since I'm not good at video games and I play Monster Hunter a lot, you can already imagine what those clock hours look like and then how like.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so basically,
And you play Monster Hunter a lot too.
Yeah, I'm not very good at getting very far at things, but basically, I guess what I would have to say about that is that it's like you have an expected function from a monster.
Yeah.
Like somebody who played 3 and then played 4, basically what they said was like, hey, they increased like the move set. It's nice. It works really well. He's a lot harder in the next game or the previous. I forget whether it was previous or next.
I get what you mean.
But basically, it's like if it works, you don't really need to fix it because people are gonna like to see this again. They have to build up their armor from the very beginning. It's basically.
Oh, you can bring over your characters. I think in this one.
Oh,
you can bring them over.
Okay. But it's like also another thing with Monster Hunter is that it's always been kind of about you. You can level up the armor, but it's like if you don't get better, you're not gonna get
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
I'm still like stuck on like G rank.
I should say fun fact about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Apparently from the leaked character list, Monster Hunter is going to be a character on the Capcom side.
Monster Hunter, like the Monster Hunter characters, like whoever you create.
It's not a created character. I think it's like probably like a poster board character. Like they're probably wearing like the Rathios set or some shit.
No, but it's like they make sense because they're really strong for what they have to do.
Yeah, and also the fun thing is I think it's like in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Dante is a character, and Dante has like a million moves. Like he has quarter circle forward X, and if you do the motion again before like his animation finishes, he'll do a different move. Like he has 2 moves mapped to the same input for forward and for back. And apparently I think Monster Hunter is probably going to end up playing like that because Monster Hunter has a huge moveset, right? There's a bunch of weapons you can use.
There's a bunch of weapons.
Yeah, so imagine how cool it is to go from like great sword to lance to gun or some shit.
You do get like you basically do get like these classes. The classes decide what moves you got. Well, you aren't really a class. Your weapon is the class, and then whatever you do with it, skill set's going to be basically the same.
Yeah.
The real uniqueness comes from what creature you made it from, to what status effect, to what it does.
They're probably going to just pick like the basic, like the pop, like the stuff everybody knows.
Sure.
Like the first weapon or something, because everybody knows what the first weapon is. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't even know if it's real because it is a leak. But it'd be really cool. I'd definitely play Monster Hunter if he was a character because that sounds super sick. If he's in it, I'm playing him and Chris because I like Chris a lot from Resident Evil.
Yeah, I'm thinking that like
I'm going to shoot the gun.
If it's going to have to be like some fast movesets, I'm either thinking it's going to have to be like dual wield, or like...
One of the ones I'm really disappointed about though. Apparently, Ashura from Ashura's Wrath isn't in the game. And that sucks. Because he would be so much fun. I guess he just didn't sell well enough. Or his game didn't sell well enough. He was so much fun. That game was so much fun. I just wish it did better. That's all. That's all I really got to say about that. But Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
I really can't wait to see. Oh yeah, Ultron's in it too. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Ultron.
The way you just transitioned into that, it was just like, oh, Ultron's in it.
Yeah, Ultron's in it.
Yeah,
he's a character. He summons in minions. Oh, and Sigma is also going to be in it as a DLC character from Mega Man X. I don't know how the fuck that's going to work, but hey, you get to be Sigma. And apparently there's a combined version of Sigma. The plot of the game is Sigma and Ultron fused together to be the villain. I think it's like Ultra Sigma or something is the name of them.
Soon it's going to be like a fraternity or something. Sigma, Ultra.
Sigma, Ultra Sigma.
Sus.
SOS? No, SUS. Okay, I think we got it. I think we did good. I think we did good here.
Everybody, have a good night, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
way to. I'm gonna end there.